So I happened to be awake when Dominic left for work this morning, so we had our quick goodbyes. I packed up my things, and now I'm in the train station, making my way towards the station that has the uh, has the embarkment for the bullet train. So it's not actually the station that I went to last night. It's going to be a different one that Dominic recommended I go to. I suspect it's going to be closer. I don't know if it's the same train. It stops at different stops in Tokyo before barrels out of the city. I think it stops. The bullet train itself, I think, stops in a couple of different places. And so Kyoto is, I think, the second to the last on the line before it would loop again and start coming back in this direction. So I'm not entirely sure how long of a trip this is going to be. I've seen different estimates, but I expect to be kind of stuck in a car for a while. So this is now the Kyoto train station. Just got off the bullet train and walked around, found the tourist center and got a map. In this city, they do have a train system, but it looks like I'm going to have to rely a little bit more on buses, which will be a bit of an experience. Trains are easy because if you mess up the train, you can just kind of get off and jump back on the other train on the other side and go back to where you started. Buses are a little bit more intimidating. So, as the nature of many things that I found so far in Japan, the train station is not just the train station, it also is a luxury hotel and department store and food court and things like that attached to it. So it seems to be sort of typical of the Japanese sort of building sensibility, that they want to combine all these things and have them all close for convenience sake. The thing I'd like to try and do here is I have a pretty good idea of where I'm going to go. And right now, I think sort of the limit is to go and take the bus to get to where my hostel is going to be. I actually prefer, if it's available, to rent bicycles. Because I think there's probably a lot more ground that I can cover that way, and it gives you a more intimate look at the city rather than having to jump on the bus and kind of half pay attention and half say read a guidebook while I'm moving. So they made some interesting design choices here, actually. So I tried to take some pictures of this, but I don't really think that the scope of photographs is really going to tell the story. The train station, the bullet train station, is attached to the Kyoto station, so the buses and local trains. And like I said, it was malls and hotels attached to it. It's not a standard skyscraper, so it's not just sort of like a cube that kind of goes straight up. What they've done is a lot of the station is actually open air, and you ride escalators up, so each floor kind of progressively gets smaller as you sort of climb the temple, so to speak. And I guess it kind of forms like a big V, so I can look at the other side and it's pretty high, so it's sort of a big valley in the middle of it. And at the top here, there's the Sky Garden, so it's another garden is sort of what I'm getting to assume is sort of the Japanese style, where they've created to look at but not necessarily interact with. So, bamboo stalks and grass kind of inside of it, and then a guardrail around it saying, please do not disturb, which is fine. A little bit of respect for the greenery. So I guess sort of the next step here is I want to explore this station a little bit more, but I really should get going to this hostel here because I'm carrying a lot of our weight around with me, and I don't necessarily have a whole lot of time here, right? So there's a lot of sights to be seen. When you get up this high, though, you get a good vantage point of the city, and this is a very old city, massive urban sprawl. The history is such that the capital of Japan moved a number of different times. And some of those times it was there for a brief time, some of it was for a long time. So Kyoto was actually the capital of this country for over 1,000 years. And I think it's only been 300 or 400 years that the capital's been in Tokyo. So it was here for a very, very long time. And that's kind of why this is supposed to be one of the cultural centers, because every subsequent generation added something new. From what I looked at the map, they broke it up between sections of the city, so north, east, south, west. Things kind of on the outside of that, and it seems like a lot of the interesting temples to see, if you want to go see temples, are either at the fringes or actually outside the city. So they've taken care to kind of preserve that. Well, there will be things interesting inside of it, and they say that the commentary that I've gotten from reading on it is that you can't walk 10 feet in any direction without kind of coming across something, which is cool, actually. It reminds me a little bit. I keep making sort of allegories to my trip to Thailand. You could probably make a fair comparison of what it sounds like with Tokyo and Bangkok in the sense that they're sort of the big, really developed cities, and then Chiang Mai in Thailand to this city where there's a lot more of like the traditional culture still present, which is cool. I'm looking forward to that. Makes for better pictures and makes for more opportunities to do video that's not just you guys looking at my old mug. So I thought I'd tell you a little like amusing story that happened to me on the way to the location I'm at presently in Kyoto. So I had to take a bus. Well, I didn't actually have to take the bus, but I ended up taking the bus, and it's a little different than what I'm used to. You actually pay when you get off the bus, which is interesting. But anyway, so you go sit down in this bus, and you're sitting amongst like other travelers and a lot of other actual like Japanese. And there's a little lady that's sitting next to me. She kind of keeps like giggling a little bit and then giggling a little bit. And she pulls out her phone and she kind of does like a little search. And she shows me this picture, and the picture is of Freddy Mercury, like Freddy Mercury from like the band Queen, like he's been dead for however long he's been dead. And I'm looking at it, I'm not really kind of understanding like what it is she's getting at. It's just kind of like, it's like you. The little like Japanese lady thinks I look like Freddie Mercury from Queen. So like I was not really familiar with the character. He's got like one, a full head of hair, and two, like a full mustache. Like maybe I can kind of see like the jawline or something like that, but like I don't really think that I look like Freddie Mercury. So one celebrity association, so that's what I look like to the Japanese. I look like Freddie Mercury. Maybe that'll give me some name dropping, get into some clubs or something. I don't know. But checking into the hostel, which is nice because now that I had like a Wi-Fi connection, the nice thing about having an iPad is that you can load up a map and it has a little blue dot that traces where you are. So now I have an idea of where I am and where I need to get back to, because the street naming of where I had to go was a little unclear, so I had to follow some not as great as they could have been maps to get here. So now it's just about like 5 o'clock in the evening. Some of the touristy things looks like they're already shut down for the day, so I think it's just going to be a little bit of like wandering around and kind of seeing what I can see. There's a lot of different things to sort of take like pictures of. There's a lot of really old buildings here, which is kind of a cool one. And I think the plan tomorrow is, it seems like there's a place not too far away from here where you can rent a bicycle for the day for the equivalent of about $10. Although it looks like you can get a day pass for the train system for about the same amount. As nice as bicycling is, the train can get me a lot farther and faster, so I might opt for that instead. Definitely a lot to see in this city. I'm going to try and do sort of what I did when I was in Tokyo, where I'm going to hit the things in the guidebook that were kind of saying like highlights, and I think I'm going to sort of move one section of the city at a time. So I'm kind of in the eastern side of the city, so I'm going to try and hit some of the highlights in the eastern side of the city, and then sort of move around. They say that the Imperial Palace here, it's kind of one of these things where it got burnt down a couple of times and rebuilt, so it actually isn't even the nicest thing to see here. So, I'm just going to try and hit the highlights and see how much of it we can do. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to get a chance to see some of the live theater, because they have the Kabuki Theater and the No Theater, which I don't necessarily know a whole lot about, but it seems like it's a big time commitment. Like if you're going to do all these things, like it could take up kind of a whole evening sort of thing, and I'm here to see the sights, so that may not be sort of the best use of my time. But objective number one, I am going to go see if I can find some food. I haven't really done like the ramen, and when sort of at home you kind of know ramen, it's just being like the instant noodle, but when you do it here it's actually like fresh noodles, like noodle soup. And it's kind of one of those things that it's kind of considered to be like the mainstay course of Japanese cuisine, so I'm going to see if I can dig that up. It's sort of the one thing I haven't tried yet. So this thing right here is like the best idea I've had during the whole trip. I'm cycling around this city on this thing, and it is awesome. I cannot tell you how tired my legs have been from all this walking that I've been doing. I cycle quite a bit when I'm home. So they have a couple of different options, things you can get. So this is actually like a one-speed bike. You notice that it has like the metal fender, and it was kind of the observation, one of the many observations that I made when I got here, is that you sort of have this expectation that Japan's got everything that's like the newest and the coolest. But you see lots of stuff like this where it's not really ultra-modern at all. I don't know, I guess that's sort of like an ongoing sort of disillusionment of like what I was expecting from this country. Like, Tokyo, as well as this city, you'll walk around, you'll see there's kind of a lot of old buildings. Like it's not, I don't know, there's sort of an expectation you just walk into the movie Tron, like everything's going to be super electronic and ultra modern, and that's not really true. They're old cities. This city was the capital for 1,000 years, a couple of 100 years ago. So there's a lot of things here. I mean, obviously the bridge is new and the spillway is new, but there's going to be shrines here that are probably about that old, and there's buildings that are going to be here for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years, 200 years.
So I basically just did a loop around this city. I don't really have a clear conception exactly how big it is, but it's enough so that I can make a giant square around it and pretty much kind of loop in all the things I'm going to try and hit tomorrow. I have a suspicion that I was originally thinking that I wasn't going to quite be able to get everything sort of noteworthy in this town done before I have to leave, before I have to sort of head back to Tokyo. And now I don't think that's true, actually. I think there's a good chance I can get a lot of the highlights in. I don't necessarily need to see like every temple. I passed by a few of them tonight. They were just a little bit too dark to take a picture of. They did have some like interesting like hanging red lanterns, and I did appreciate that. So there's a chance that I'll have time to go to another city that's not very far away from here that was kind of recommended by some of the other people I know that have spent some time in the area. I think the first thing tomorrow is the destination I'm going to start at doesn't really open until 9, but I've been waking up at around 6 or 7 fairly consistently since I got here, sometimes earlier. Although I'm starting to kind of like acclimatize back to like this particular time zone. I think it's supposed to be like every day you're on a new time zone. You sort of move your circadian cycle like an hour. So I've been here a couple of days now, so I'm a few hours closer. Unfortunately, it's going to be really miserable going back the other way, but you know, we'll deal with that. So I think it's just sort of a matter of like me kind of getting a drink of water because I've been cycling kind of a lot and probably hitting the hay tonight. So you know, enjoy those videos of that fancy thing they got going over there, the sort of low budget Bellagio like fountain thing. And nah, it was okay. I shouldn't say it. I shouldn't talk it down. It was lovely. So, and I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow.